But the now legendary escape provided a unique challenge. The filmmakers had to make the audacious events they were depicting seem real to a film-going audience nearly 20 years after the true story had taken place.
Group Captain Ramsey, in the past 4 years, the Reich has been forced to spend an enormous amount of time, energy, manpower, and equipment hunting down escaping prisoner of war officers.
Well, at least it's rather nice to know you're wanted, isn't it?
For us, it's not a matter for levity. There will be no escapes from this camp.
During World War II, Allied airmen who were captured by the Germans were transported to one of several special prison camps for holding Air Force officers, far from the English Channel. Although the Geneva Convention protected prisoners of war from physical harm, the German forces wanted to make sure they couldn't rejoin the war effort.
There wasn't a damn thing you could do about it. As the Germans said to me when they took me into the farmhouse, "For you, the war is over."
The camps that housed Air Force officers were run by the German Air Force, the Luftwaffe.
I guess you could call them the least Nazified of the German services. So there was a sense of camaraderie, you might say, or rapport for the flying officers.
But many of the Allied officers felt it was their duty to try to escape. And even if they didn't succeed, their efforts would tie up vital German manpower. The film quickly established this as the prisoner's strategy.
You appointed me Big X. And it's my duty to harass, confound, and confuse the enemy to the best of my ability.
That's true.
And that's what I intend to do. I'm going to cause such a terrible stink in this Third Reich of theirs that thousands of troops that could well be employed at the front will be tied up here looking after us.
How?
By putting more men out of this perfect camp of theirs than have ever escaped before. Oh, not blitzing out 2 or 3 or a dozen, but 200, 300, scatter them all over Germany.
We figured we were keeping quite a few Germans occupied, trying to keep us in. And we had a lot of minor escapes.
The object of the exercise wasn't really to get people home, because that very rarely happened. The object was to create disruption in occupied Europe and in Germany.
In April 1942, tired of the continual escape attempts that drained their resources, the Luftwaffe decided to move all the notorious escapers to one prison. The Luftwaffe expanded a small camp at Segan, 100 miles southeast of Berlin, where they planned to operate an escape-proof compound. Captured airmen of all nationalities were brought together in the camp named Stalag Luft 3.
Well, they had taken everything they'd learned from 2.5 years of guarding prisoners of war and put it into that camp.
There was double barbed wire, fences 9 feet high, and coiled barbed wire in between. It was a very intimidating place, I must say. And they had lots of guards. There was guards in the towers. There was guards on the ground walking around the perimeter.
Despite the high security, as soon as the airmen were moved into the new compound, they tried to escape.
Danny and I have a blitz in mind. Could you put on some sort of brief show for the goons?
Their early attempts were random but persistent, as the screen version of the story chronicled.
So you had people crawling under trucks, jumping into trucks, trying to get out with parties of workmen. Exactly like it happened in the film.
Hold it, hold it!
But as the film also showed, the arrival of one man changed everything. Under the leadership of Roger Bushell, various escape activities became organized into one overall plan.
Bushell was a South African by birth who had come to England. He was extremely intelligent, very determined, immensely capable. He had great leadership skills. And very early in the war, although he wasn't the highest-ranking prisoner, he quickly emerged as the leader in terms of escaping.
Bushell's plan was to dig 3 tunnels at once. He reasoned that if one was found, they would still have 2 other chances of escape. But as the film accurately portrayed, the Luftwaffe had prepared the site for the compound very carefully in order to make life as difficult as possible for would-be escapees.
They had buried microphones around the perimeter wire so they could listen for the sounds of tunneling. They built the huts on stilts so the guards could get underneath and look for signs of tunneling.
The prisoners started 3 tunnels in separate huts. They nicknamed the tunnels Tom, Dick, and Harry, and each one had a unique trap door for access.
I think Dick's trap was the most ingenious, not only in this camp, but probably in any camp. It was constructed in the drain in the shower block, just like it shows in the film. The prisoners decided that they could bail out the water from the drain, sink their shaft through the side of the drain, and then seal it up again, fill it with water, and the Germans would never discover it was there. And in fact, they never did. It was the only tunnel that remained undiscovered through the whole war.
You're not in your hut? What are you doing here? Mopping up. And you?
Shower. I need a wash.
Each tunnel began with a shaft that was 30 feet deep. From this depth, the German guards wouldn't be able to hear the work that was going on right under their feet. Fortunately, the light soil was easy to excavate.
Well, it was mostly sand, damp sand, so you could use your hands. So we didn't have to use many implements at all.
But every 3.5 feet of tunnel produced nearly a ton of sand that had to be disposed of. On screen, the ingenious method of dispersal was authentically dramatized.
You fill these bags with the dirt from the tunnel. Then, wearing them inside your trousers, you wander out into the compound, where you pull these strings in your pockets. Out come the pins. Eric, it's good. All you have to do is kick it in.
I would go to the garden and I would pull the 2 strings in my pant pockets to release the sand. It would all dribble down there and pretty well below the surface. So that was one way of disposing of a great deal of sand, because there was an awful lot of people involved in getting rid of the sand.
But once the actual tunnels were under construction, the soft, sandy earth created another problem. The underground passageways were prone to cave-ins.
Sand has no support. You dig out, and it's just a matter of time till it'll collapse. Wally was digging, and I was passing back. And suddenly the candle blew out, and there was a hell of a wind in my face, so I knew damn well what it was. So I just went forward as fast as I could. And I got him out in about, well, I guess, minutes.
As the tunnels crept towards the perimeter of the compound, the prisoners used wooden bed slats to shore up the walls and built a railway to speed them through the dimly lit passage.
I thought the film did a wonderful job of giving viewers a real picture of what it looked like inside the tunnel. You would have a space that was probably 2.5 foot wide by 2 foot 8 inches high. It would be shored with lumber all the way along. There would be a little, essentially a trolley that would lie in your stomach to go back and forth.
The prisoners even invented an air supply system to improve conditions underground, which was faithfully reconstructed in the film with the help of technical advisor Wally Floody.
Is it finished?
Of course.
Why isn't it in?
Working on the air ducts now.
Well, when will they be finished?
1 or 2 days.
Does it work?
Of course it works.
Will it give us enough air?
Twice as much as you'll need.
The art department would take Wally and put him in the tunnel set, and he would literally say, you know, it's not tight enough, because I remember my shoulders, I haven't gained that much weight, my shoulders were scraping, so they'd take him out and take him back the next day after they adjusted it.
With Floody's reassurance, Sturgis and his team were confident that they were realistically recreating the events of the daring escape.
Wally said, you know, you guys are getting it right, the wire and the construction and the actors. He said, I know you're getting it right. And I said, are you sure? And he said, yeah, because I'm having nightmares.
But as in real life, building the escape tunnel was only half of the story. And the Great Escape would soon come under fire for embellishing the role played by Americans in the breakout.
The general public would not know about the Americans not being in the escape. They could walk away from the movie with quite a wrong impression.